Welcome to Wisconsin Public Broadcasting's live coverage of the 2015 Biennial State Budget Address from the Wisconsin State Capitol in Madison. In a few moments, Governor Scott Walker will make his way into the Assembly chambers. Walker will address the full legislature, his cabinet, and the people of Wisconsin. Good evening, I'm Frederica Freiberg from Wisconsin Public Television.
And I'm Sean Johnson from Wisconsin Public Radio. We're about to hear Governor Scott Walker's third state budget address. For the past couple weeks, Governor Walker has been previewing some of his plans to merge state agencies in what he calls a cost-saving measure.
Tonight, he presents the full budget that seeks a $300 million cut to the University of Wisconsin system over the next 2 years. There will also be a $1.3 billion in borrowing toward transportation costs. Walker is also looking for $220 million in bonding to help build a new NBA arena for the Milwaukee Bucks. Those are some of the big ticket items the governor has released in advance of tonight's budget address.
What we haven't heard yet are the full details on how Governor Walker plans to cut the projected $2 billion deficit.
Tonight, the focus, of course, is on the governor and his budget numbers. And we were given a sneak preview kind of the budget in brief, at least, but it has been embargoed until the governor takes the podium here in the Assembly chambers before the full legislature. But we do know things have been, he has kind of leaked some things out over the days and weeks, including the University of Wisconsin system budget cuts in exchange for their public authority, as well as some of the transportation funding.
Yeah, some of the big stuff is definitely out there. The UW budget is huge. I think what the governor wants to do with transportation, we've known since late last week. He wants to borrow $1.3 billion to pay for roads, and we know already that that has Republican lawmakers who ultimately have to pass this budget, send it back to the governor, concerned, and some of them saying that that level of borrowing is too high. So, that we know right from the get-go that's one area where the legislature might butt heads with the governor.
In fact, the Budget Writing Committee and even some leadership is talking about their concerns as well about the University of Wisconsin system because they're concerned that the tuition rates will go sky high after the governor's tuition freeze comes off after 2 years. So they have concerns about that as well as access issues for the university and its campuses.
Yeah, just the way that the governor's budget is structured, it creates this new authority for the UW, has this independence to set its own tuition in a couple years. So if they're coming off a 13% cut in state funding in this budget, they haven't hidden their intentions. They've said that in a couple years, absolutely, that they're going to go to a tuition increase. And you're talking about a sizable increase if you want to make up that funding.
And yet, what people are saying in the majority here is that, of the 70,000 state employees, 35,000 of them are with the university. And so it's a good place to start to kind of push them off the books, give them this public authority.
And here is the Assembly Sergeant-at-Arms about to introduce Governor Scott Walker.
The joint convention shall come to order. The chair recognizes the Assembly Sergeant-at-Arms.
Madam President and members, the Governor of the great state of Wisconsin, the Honorable Scott Walker.
But certainly, pay attention to this man.
You see the governor there shaking hands with lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. More Republicans' hands to shake than he's ever had before, for sure. The Republican majorities here are large, and a lot of new members here in the legislature, too, who are going to be going through their first budget cycle. It'll be interesting to see what they think about he introduces here tonight and how they handle the budget that's about to be handed to them. We know that the legislature's Joint Finance Committee wants to hold 4, they're calling them regional listening sessions. I mean, they're public hearings around the state. We know that they want to finish their work, if possible, by Memorial Day. The governor said he wants the legislature to move quickly if possible, and we know he's very publicly laying the groundwork for a run for president here. That's getting started pretty quickly this year, and so a lot of candidates are already spending considerable time in early presidential states like Iowa and New Hampshire. The governor's been one of them in Iowa.
So the governor will very shortly, as we've said, put a little more meat on the bones of this budget that he will formally introduce. And the state of Wisconsin will have a better understanding of where he wants to go.
At this time, it is my honor to introduce the great governor of the great state of Wisconsin, the Honorable Scott Walker.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Speaker Voss, Speaker Pro Tem August, President Lazick, Majority Leader Fitzgerald, Minority Leader Schilling, Minority Leader Barca, members of the Wisconsin Supreme Court, constitutional officers, tribal leaders, members of our cabinet, distinguished guests, members of the legislature, and most importantly, fellow citizens of the great state of Wisconsin. It is an honor to appear before you again tonight. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce the First Lady of the great state of Wisconsin, my wife, Tonette. Next to my wife is the Adjutant General of the Wisconsin National Guard, Major General Donald Dunbar. Major General. And 2 seats over from General Dunbar are Brigadier General Mark Anderson and Command Sergeant Major Bradley Shields. Thanks to each of you. Thanks to each of you and all that you represent. As a kid growing up in Delavan, I started working as a dishwasher at the Countryside Restaurant. And later I went on to flip burgers at McDonald's to save up for school. My mom was a part-time secretary, and she raised my brother and me while my dad served as a pastor in our small town. We didn't have much money, but the best thing my parents gave us was the understanding of the value of hard work. Mom was raised on a farm where they didn't have indoor plumbing until she went to junior high school. And my dad's dad was a machinist at the factory for most of his life. More than anything, my family ingrained in me the idea that anyone who worked hard could go as far as their dreams would take them. It was through their eyes that I got my first glimpse of the American dream. Today, however, I worry that too many of our fellow citizens feel that dream has become out of reach for them and their families. The budget plan we present tonight will help restore that American dream right here in Wisconsin. Our plan is based on growth and opportunity, which leads to freedom and prosperity for all. Secondly, our plan will use common sense reforms to create a government that is limited in scope and ultimately more effective, more efficient, and more accountable to the public. And finally, our plan will ensure a state where people are safe and sound in their homes and throughout their communities. Our freedom and prosperity proposal is built to help working families like the Vandreeses from Pound in northeastern Wisconsin. Ken is a truck driver and Kelly works in maintenance. And like Tonette and me, they have 2 sons. Trevor is studying to be a diesel mechanic in the John Deere Ag Tech program at the Technical College here in town. And he also works at the local dealership in Pound. Tanner is studying business communications at the University of Wisconsin in Marinette. The Vandreeses are here with us tonight. Last year, the Vandreeses were happy to see their property tax bill go down. In fact, largely because of our reforms and the flexibility we gave to local governments, property taxes on a typical home in Wisconsin are $131 less than they were in 2010. Tonight, I'm proud to say that our state budget will continue those reforms, so the property tax bill on a typical home will be even lower during the next 2 years. Just as I promised, property taxes by the end of 2016 will be lower than they were in 2014. That means lower property tax bills for 6 years in a row. How about that? Our budget will continue the tuition freeze for undergraduates from Wisconsin at each of the UW system campuses. And we will add a tuition freeze in our technical colleges for high-demand areas. That's good news for students like Tanner and Trevor. In addition to helping working families and students, this budget will assist small businesses and farmers, as well as senior citizens. That's good news for people like James Booker from Plymouth. In December, I received a note from Mr. Booker that read, "Dear Governor Walker, I want to thank you. I am 68 years old and have owned various homes in Wisconsin since I was 20 years old. This is the first time that I have ever received a substantial reduction in the property tax. I have been very angry at Wisconsin for a number of years due to the huge property tax compared to other states, and have been planning on selling our home and moving to a low-tax state. We have had our home up for sale for a year and took it off the market for the winter. Now, I plan on not relisting in the spring, and will wait to see what happens with Wisconsin property taxes." Well, thank you, Mr. Booker, for that nice note, and I want to tell you clearly tonight that because of our reforms in this budget, we will continue the things that help keep lowering your property taxes so people like you can stay in Wisconsin. And that's just some of the really good news happening in our state these days. Last week, the federal government reported November was the best month for private sector job creation that we've had in Wisconsin since 1990. For the month, we ranked 5th in the country and 1st in the Midwest for private sector job growth. We want that trend to continue as we grow the economy. To help, our budget will merge 2 of our state entities that work on economic and housing issues into one highly effective organization called the Ford Wisconsin Development Authority. And the budget will add further investments into the successful Wisconsin Fast Forward program that helps people get the skills they need to succeed through technical college courses, apprenticeships, and training programs. as well as working on ways to help our military veterans find employment or even someday start a business of their own. These effective worker training programs are actually economic development efforts. You see, so many of our employers are looking for qualified workers. Increasing the ability to fill these positions will encourage employers to add more work, which obviously will lead to more jobs. Maintaining a strong infrastructure is another positive way to grow the economy, not only for the people who design, build, and maintain it, but because it is key to commerce in this state. Under our Freedom and Prosperity proposal, we are investing in our transportation system, expanding broadband access, and continuing to improve the quality of health care throughout the state. We want to grow the economy in cities, towns, and villages all across Wisconsin while not growing the size of state government. To do more with less, we found more ways to reform government. As I mentioned in our State of the State address, we propose that several state agencies be merged and various programs be consolidated to provide better service to the customer as well as better value to the taxpayers. Here's a good example. For years, supporters of the University of Wisconsin system said freeing them of being directly under the state government's bureaucracy would reduce cost in multiple areas for the system. This budget includes a bold proposal to provide new governance through an authority similar to the one used for the UW Hospital and clinics. Now, recently, some have raised concerns about this proposed reform. These are some of the same claims we heard 4 years ago when Act 10 reforms were first enacted. Remember, today, our graduation rates are higher, third-grade reading scores are better, and Wisconsin ACT scores are second best in the country. With this in mind, I asked the legislature to give our bold reform idea a serious look. As the father of the UW student, I have a real interest in the success of our state system, and I believe that this will make the University of Wisconsin stronger in the years to come. Speaking of education, our budget will increase state support for schools by providing more than $100 million annually for the school levy tax credit and more than $100 million in the second year of the budget for equalization aids. All while maintaining revenue limits to ensure continuing property tax relief for the people of the state. To help the needs of rural schools, we will provide additional aid for transportation and other costs. Thanks to Representative Rob Swearingen and the other members of the Speaker's Task Force on Rural Schools for their leadership on this important issue. Overall, we want to provide the best education possible for every child in this state. For many, like my sons and me, it will be at a traditional public school. For other families, it will be in a successful charter, private, virtual, or homeschool environment. One of those families involves a wonderful mom named Dina Lean. Last year, I had the opportunity to meet Dina and her family in Appleton. She told me about how her son was in a local public school a few years ago, but it just wasn't working out for him. Back then, his grades were low. He was being bullied, and he didn't like school very much. Thankfully, Dina's family was one of the first to sign up for the school choice expansion after the last budget. Dina introduced me to her family, and I was thrilled to hear that her son Trace is now loving 6th grade. He's in the band, and he plays football, and his school scores have improved dramatically. Dina and her husband, Michael, are here tonight, along with their children, Colton, Trace, and Alexis. Tonight, I'm excited to announce our plans to lift the cap on vouchers so more families like Dina's can have the choice to find the best school for their children. You see, every child deserves the chance to succeed. And every parent deserves the ability to see objective and comparable data about their child's school. Our budget includes the tools to provide that information to every parent for any school that receives public funds. You see, I trust parents. Give them the facts, and they will act in the best interest of their children. In addition, our budget removes funding for the Smarter Balance Test, which is connected to Common Core. We also include legal language making it clear that no school district in the state has to use these standards, which are set by people from outside of our state. I believe in high standards, and those decisions should be made by school board members and parents and others at the local level. Our reforms will also improve programs that provide assistance to people in times of need. You see, here in Wisconsin, we help folks facing financial challenges. For those who are able, however, these programs should be a temporary safety net, not a hammock. With this in mind, our budget expands the requirement for able-bodied adults to be enrolled in an employment training program in order to receive food stamps. Now, some might claim that that's making it harder to get government assistance. We're not. We're making it easier to get a job. The next step is to require able-bodied adults without children to pass a drug test in order to get a welfare check. For those who fail, we will provide treatment so we can get them off of drugs. So why are we doing this? Well, because we know we can get people jobs. Each week, employers tell me that they have positions available. They just need individuals who can show up for work and who can pass a drug test. Think about it. As of this afternoon, there were more than 72,000 job openings posted on our state website. We need more people to fill those jobs. We want to help transition people from government dependence to true independence through the dignity that comes from work. This will bring security to both taxpayers and more importantly, to those who ultimately are able to take charge of their lives. Overall, our Freedom and Prosperity proposal provides greater security for people all across Wisconsin. This budget provides renewed financial security as it is balanced, and the Rainy Day Fund, well, that's the largest in state's history, 165 times bigger than when we first took office. Our retirement system is the only one fully funded in the country, and our bond rating is strong. Now, in my predecessor's last budget, the total bonding level was $3.6 billion. In this budget, I'm proud to tell you, the total level of bonding is down to less than $1.6 billion. This is the lowest, this is the lowest it has been in a decade. Now, security for our citizens is just as important. In this budget, we put more than $600 million into Medicaid to provide health care for needy families, children, and seniors. Through our bold reforms among the states that did not take the Obamacare expansion, we are the only state in the nation without a gap in coverage, according to the respected Kaiser Family Foundation. Beyond Medicaid, we provide additional funds for programs that help victims of domestic violence and their families. Some of our partners in this fight against domestic violence are here with us tonight. Patty Seeger is the Executive Director of End Domestic Abuse Wisconsin. Terry Jandusa Nikolai is a domestic violence survivor from Waterford. Rose Barber of Hayward is a member of the Kudere Band of Lake Superior Chippewa Indians, a survivor and a longtime advocate for victims. Melissa Torres is a survivor of domestic violence from right here in Madison. And Jessica Hanisch is an experienced domestic violence victim advocate who works at the Rainbow House in Marinette. Let's give them all a round of applause. Places like Rainbow House will benefit from our investments in the fight against domestic violence. And I just learned tonight that John Nygren, State Representative John Nygren's mother, Sue, was the director for nearly 2 decades of that particular establishment. John, thank you to your mother for her great service. In this budget, we also continue to improve mental health services in the state, provide more funds to help the victims of child sex trafficking, and maintain support for successful crime-fighting programs like ShotSpotter to help fight gun violence. Earlier tonight, I introduced each of you to the family of the Vandreeses. And our Freedom and Prosperity proposal is designed to help families like theirs. Our budget helps keep their property taxes down and their sons' tuition frozen. Our budget reform government so we can operate in a way that is more effective and more efficient and ultimately more accountable. And our budget provides more security to people like them all over this state. So as we close, let's be clear. In putting this budget together, we had to make some tough choices, and you all, the members of the legislature in the coming months, will have to make some tough choices as well. But let me take a moment to tell you about a group of people who give new meaning to the concept of making tough choices. In September, I had the honor of joining 95 soldiers and their families from the 950th Engineer Company in Superior as they deployed for Afghanistan. Representative Milroy, a veteran himself, joined me at that event. Now listen to this. Of the 95 soldiers, about 1/3 of them re-upped to join this deployment. That's remarkable enough, but it's even more so when you hear about their mission. The members of the 950th went to Afghanistan to get rid of the remaining IEDs, improvised explosive devices. That's right. They went back to Afghanistan to get rid of the remaining IEDs. Now that is courage. With us tonight is Cora Redd, the wife of Andrew Redd, the commander of the 950th Engineer Company. Cora's a new mother. She's also a veteran, and she's also the Family Readiness Group lead volunteer. Cora, thank you to you and all that you represent. So as we debate the tough choices we must make over the next several months and talk about the future of this great state, let us be united in one thing, our gratitude for the men and women like these who don't just talk about freedom, they fight for it each and every day. Thank you. May God bless you. May God especially bless our brave men and women in uniform, and may God continue to bless the great state of Wisconsin.